Broadly speaking, the most profound architectural changes will be in future vehicles. Retooling a factory means bringing the factory down for an extended period of time, and that would prefer not to do that, I think. But there are variants in how Model Y is produced. So we've got variants where there's rear casting, where there's a front and rear casting, and we have the structural battery pack. And then there are a number of smaller improvements that occur. But I think for really, really big changes, those would be future vehicles. Yeah. We're going to address whatever we think the limiting factor is at any point in time. So we would like to do the least amount possible. So we don't want to get into the mining or refining sector. We will do that if we have to. I do think the focus really should be on refining capacity. We need to make just a very giant amount of anode cathode lithium hydroxide, lithium carbonate. It's really the refining capacity that is the biggest choke point. Yeah, so that's why we're building a lithium refinery in Corpus Christi. I mean, if you have a Powerwall that can take the house load, then you can use your car as a supplementary energy source to the Powerwall, and then you're not going to drive everyone crazy by unplugging your car and having the house go off. So I think there's some value there as a supplemental energy source down the road, where if you have a Powerwall, you've not diminished the convenience of the people in the house.
And the question of number of models?
Sorry, the what? Oh, how many models? Oh,
vehicle models.
Not that many. Really, 10. I don't know. Not that many. What's happened with conventional cars is people have run out of things to do. So if you run out of things to do, they just end up reshuffling the deck, and you have pretty much the same. I mean, how many variants of car are there on the road? There's like hundreds. But are they good variants? No, mostly not. They're just variants for the sake of variants. But look at how have things converged with the phone? I mean, there used to be hundreds of flip phones. Now what do we have? It'll be like that. It's something I should say with respect to demand, which I've said a few times over the years, but it's sometimes needs to be said again, which is overwhelmingly the desire for people to own a Tesla is extremely high. The limiting factor is their ability to pay for a Tesla, not do they want a Tesla. It's easy for people in this room to lose sight of that. If your income is far in excess of what a car costs, then you look at value for money, but you do not consider affordability. But for the vast majority of people, it is affordability driven. This is why we cannot simply double the price of the car. Or you could say, and think about things in the limit, where if you had an infinitely desirable car, but it costs $10 million, it wouldn't matter because most people do not have that. So demand is very much a function of affordability, not desire. Very important. One of the things we weren't sure about was the price elasticity of demand for Teslas. So like, as we lower the price, how much does demand increase? And we found that even small changes in the price have a big effect on demand, very big. So that was a good thing to learn. Yeah. And then as this autonomy question is very, very big, because you could potentially have, 5 times the utility of the asset that you currently have. So if a passenger car is 10 or 12 hours a week of usage, plus a lot of parking expenses. An autonomous car could be 50 to 60 hours a week or something like that. And you could get rid of a lot of parking expenses. So, if this is true, then as autonomy is effectively turned on for the fleet, it probably will be the biggest asset value increase in history overnight. For our vehicles, in terms of desire to own them, may as well be infinite. It's indistinguishable from infinite at this point. So affordability is what matters. So as you make the car more affordable, we will have demand go crazy, basically. The issue is, how do we build the cars? The hard part is building the cars. I can't emphasize that enough. The hard part is building the cars and the entire supply chain that goes with the cars. This is a logistics challenge of extraordinary difficulty. All the things that have to go into the car have to scale with the car, while everything is doing an exponential ramp. And if you miss even one of those things, doesn't matter why, earthquake, flood, fire, revolution, I thought I've heard them all. Any part of that supply chain gets interrupted, then you have a seizure. The hard part is building the cars by far, and the supply chain that goes with it. I think it's an old saying, like, battles are won with tactics, wars are won with logistics. The logistics challenges here are enormous. And when you start being a very significant percentage of an industry, you can't overcapacitize. It's not realistic. And some of these things, like you say, dual source or triple source, you can do that maybe for small things, but you can't do it for big things, because if you're triple sourced, and it's like having a plane with 3 engines, where if any of the 3 engines fails, you crash. It's like, so and you have to either overcapacitize, which drives your CapEx up, and it has idle suppliers somewhere and big warehouses, or you design to some overage that's, reasonable, and then you have expedite costs, because inevitably something goes wrong somewhere and you've got to fly things around. So it's really just the rate of progress is the rate at which we are able to scale 10,000 logistics problems. The most significant of those is the cell production. And so we actually deliberately try to overdo cell production or cell supply to have that exceed what is needed in vehicles. Because if it goes below what's needed in vehicles, then the factories stall. But then what do you do with all these extra cells? It's like, well, okay, so the much easier thing to scale up and down is Powerwall and Megapack output, stationary storage. So we can then overcapacitize in cells and packs, and scale production of stationary storage, which is much easier to scale than vehicle production. So that's strategically, I think, a good thing. The CapEx for Megapack is tiny compared to CapEx for vehicles. Also, Megapack demand is quasi-infinite. It basically, as long as we are competitive with utilities, we can sell as many quasi-infinite demand for that, really. Or many terawatt hours. And we got a long way to go to get to many terawatt hours per year. It's something that's, I don't know if we touched on this much, but in terms of training, we have one of the biggest neural net training systems in the world, and that we expect to increase that capability by an order of magnitude by the end of this year, and probably another order of magnitude by the end of next year, with some combination of NVIDIA and Dojo. So much of the scale of that is quite dawned on people. It's enormous. I mean, we acquired Maxwell really just for the dry electrode technology, but just illustrates what a gigantic gap there is between something working at small scale and at large scale. And we've had an extremely talented team of engineers working on scaling the dry electrode process and having it be reliable and consistent. And we've been grinding hard, literally and figuratively, on this for quite a while. It seems likely that we will be able to scale it to volume this year. I don't see AI helping us make cars anytime soon. At that point, I mean, at no point any of us working, I think.
Big problems.
So we'll just chill out. I mean, I'm a little worried about the AI stuff. I think it's something, I don't know, which we should be concerned about. I don't know, I think we should need some kind of like regulatory authority or something that's overseeing AI development and just making sure that it's operating within the public interest. And, you know, it's quite a dangerous technology. And I fear I may have done some things to accelerate it, which is, I don't know. So, I mean, some of the AI stuff I think is just obviously useful, like what we're doing with self-driving, which is, you know, some people think is an AGI type problem. I don't think it's quite an AGI problem, but it's certainly requires very sophisticated neural nets because the road system is designed for eyes and biological neural nets. So naturally, the analog to that is cameras with digital neural nets. Yeah, the thing we found is just there's if you actually look at our neural net architecture in the car, it's kind of insane, frankly. Nets upon nets upon nets upon nets.
Yeah, the visualization tool crashes when you open.
Yeah.
It's like so complicated that no one can visualize this right now.
Yeah, it's hard to yeah, just like literally, it looks insane. So I guess something like that's happening in our brains while we drive around, which is pretty wild. So, you know, I don't know. Like Tesla's doing good things in AI. I don't know. This one stresses me out, so I don't know what to think to say about it. You know.